Hello and welcome to this tutorial. My name's Barry Beckham, and you don't need to be a technical whiz kid to use Photoshop. You just need to apply some simple knowledge, and hopefully we can supply that knowledge in this tutorial. Now, many of the demos we see online are makeovers and high-end advertising shots. Well, let's do some real photography here in 10 minutes. Let's learn something about layers, layer masks and blend modes. Let's take three pretty mediocre simple pictures, put them together with Photoshop layers and create something special. Now, the first image we're going to use, and mainly we're going to use it to use the texture of the timber, is just an old wooden fence. No fancy photography needed here, just get squared up on the fence and take your shot. Now, the second image is this old bus, which is going to provide us with our centre of interest, but as you can see, wasn't taken on a very good day, and as a standalone picture it doesn't have quite what we're looking for. But we're going to use it in a slightly different way, in layers and by blending it into that woodwork. And for our final image we're going to use this old poster which advertises Bright and Breezy Bridlington. Now, I need to see all three of these images together because I need to make a layered stack of them. That's pretty quick and easy to do. What I'm going to do to achieve that is go to Window, Arrange, Tile horizontally. Now I get to see a bit of each of my images. From the top right of the toolbox I'm going to select the Move tool. I'm going to click into the bus picture and I'm going to click, drag and drop that bus picture into the woodwork. Photoshop will always leave the original bus picture on screen, or the original image we're copying from, so just close that down. And we'll do the same with the poster. Just click to highlight the window, click, drag and drop, and we can shut down the poster. And there we have the three images ready to make a start. Now let's make a start on this image by going to the Layers palette, open the Layers palette. We don't need the Bridlington poster just for a moment, so we'll turn that off. We do need the bus, so we need to select that layer. We need to blend the bus into the woodwork. Now, the best way to do that is to use the drop down blend modes here. You can try some of the other blend modes like darken, multiply and overlay, but I'm going to use hard light for this piece of work, and you can see how that makes the bus take on the texture of the timber, and that's going to add charm and appeal to the image we're creating. The bus is in the wrong place though, so with the Move tool still selected from when we made the layered stack, I can click and move the bus to the left. I can certainly lose that person there in modern jeans and with an umbrella up, so I can move this image to the left. We don't need the back of the bus in the shot. Doesn't matter if it just drifts off a little bit. I think I'll drop the bus down a little bit too. Now, the image looks a little bit odd in the roof of the building behind there, but that's purely because we've got such a small image on screen. If I zoom in, you'll see that in fact we've got a good quality image, but we're squeezing it onto quite a small space for this YouTube video. So how do we get rid of the pixels up here and around here to blend the bus into the woodwork? Well, we could simply use the eraser tool, but there's a much better way. If we open up the layers, what we're going to do here is apply a layer mask. We do that by going down to the bottom of the layers and clicking this icon here, and the mask appears and is automatically selected. What we need to do then is to make sure we've got black selected as the foreground colour in our colour picker at the bottom of the toolbox. We need a soft edge brush, a simple brush tool, but at the top of the screen here, select from here your basic brushes, and from the basic brushes what we want is one of these nice soft brushes. Once I've got the brush on screen, it's difficult for you to see, so I'm going to use the square bracket keys to the right of the letter P to make my brush bigger. If I move it over to the woodwork on the far right, you can now see the size of the brush that I'm using. For the options for this brush tool, I'm going to set the options at the moment to around about 10%. It's not critical. There I've stopped at 13%. That should be fine. Now all we need to do is to wipe our brush down the edge here, and you can see the edge will start to disappear. Now we're not actually erasing any pixels at all, we are only masking them. So if you make a mistake with this sort of work, go down to your toolbox, switch your black for white by hitting the double-headed arrow, and you can actually paint back the image that you've just, I was going to say erased then, but of course it's not erased, it's just masked. So let's take it back to black and let's quickly flood in that edge. I'm going to push the flow rate up just a bit more, but you need to be a bit careful of this. You need to keep yours fairly low, and you can see I'm wiping it around the bottom of the bus, just taking the straight edges off. We can reduce the size of the brush in certain areas if we wish, and you can see I'm doing just that to go along the top of the bus. I'm not trying to cut around the bus very carefully. With this sort of montage, as long as we've got a nice edge there, a nice soft edge, you can see it's looking pretty good. And it's only taken me a few seconds to get that bus blended into the background. Now I don't know if you agree with me, but I find now the colour of the bus is a little bit too vivid now we've got it blended into the background. We can fix that quite easily, but we do need to go to the layers first. So I'm going to move over to the layers and open them, and I'm going to move my selection from the layer mask, which is there, to the image on the left, the image thumbnail. From the top of the screen I'm going to go to Image, Adjustment and Hue and Saturation, and let's move that out of our way. I'm going to take the saturation of the bus down, and you can see how it looks much more appropriate now in that woodwork. Now as we go about work like this, we should be saving our image quite often, and I have already done that once, calling it YouTube 01. But what I can do now is go to the layers again, and I can choose to select and turn on the Bridlington poster. Now the Bridlington poster is a little bit too big for our image, so we're going to resize it. We're going to give it a gentle tilt, and we're going to move it into the rough position we want it. The way we do that is simply by going to Edit and choosing Free Transform. A box appears around the outside edge. It's difficult for us to see the outer edge, but we can always pick up the zoom tool first and reduce the size of the image. Then when we pick up the Free Transform, Edit Free Transform, now you can see the edge of the bounding box around the edge. Click the little chain link at the top of the screen to make sure that when we drag in one of the corner toggles, the height and width resize together. We can click inside the picture and drag it into position, and then we can make it slightly smaller. We can move outside of the bounding box and give it its tilt, and you can see I'm gradually narrowing the area I want the poster to be. I'm not taking it down too much. I don't want it to go over the bus much, if at all, and I think that's going to look okay. So once I've got to that stage, I can just hit the Enter key, and that will commit the transformation of that image. Now what I need to do is to return to my layers, because we need to blend this poster in exactly the same way as we did the bus. So if we go back to the layers, we can choose one of these options, but I'm going to go directly to hard light because I know that's going to be the best option. It's not with every image we do. Sometimes, depending on the background, you may find one of the other blend modes is better. Now if I just move the layers out of the way for a moment, you can see now that that's drifting into the background like the bus, and it's looking pretty good. But we've got quite a lot of area around the outside that we need to mask away. Very easy to do because it's identical to what we've just done with the bus. In fact, it's easier than the bus because it's got straight edges. So after using exactly the same techniques with the Bridlington poster as we did with the bus, there we have our finished image.